Hi guys, fake handbags. They are everywhere. Fakes, replicas, counterfeits, dupes, alternatives, they are very different. They are very, very different to each other. Today we are talking about fakes or counterfeits. We are not talking dupes. We are not talking alternatives or inspired by. We are talking absolute fake handbags. Have you ever knowingly bought a fake handbag? If so, why? Is it ever okay to buy a fake handbag? Does it really matter? Who really cares? Is it not just your decision? Let's talk about this. So this video is all about those guys who are knowingly going out and buying a fake bag and the reasoning behind that, and is it ever okay to do that? And at the end, I'm going to give you my opinion because I have a very strong opinion on this, as you might expect. So let's quickly define what we are talking about. In this video, we are talking absolute fake handbags, counterfeit handbags. These are somebody has stolen the design of a luxury bag. It may be Louis Vuitton, whichever one, and they have produced a version of that, but they are selling it as if it is a Louis Vuitton bag. It has the LVs, it is literally an exact copy, and it is counterfeit because it is not made by Louis Vuitton or whichever luxury fashion house. So there's been a few videos recently that I've seen. I know Cassie Thorpe did a video with regard to the fact that it is now seemingly acceptable to buy a fake and to openly buy a fake and say it's a fake and use it. The Gen Z, as we talk about it, the generation of Gen Z seems to think it's absolutely fine. It's all over TikTok apparently that, yeah, here's all these fake bags and this is, you should be rocking them and using them, and there you go. So I thought that video from Cassie was really interesting. There's also been quite a few other videos over the last few weeks. And I've just watched Amelia's video on this, which I'd already planned to do this one, but after watching that, I thought I would just add this in while I'm filming because, yeah, she went to Turkey and she was saying how in Turkey there are just huge stores that are brazenly selling fakes. And they're obviously fakes. They are pretty good ones, I think. So they're not, €5 on the beach or down a back alley somewhere. And we've all seen them, haven't we, when we've been to Spain or somewhere. And they have all these counterfeit items on like a massive rug or throw or shawl on the floor. And as soon as the authorities see them, they just whip it up into like a sack and off they run down the street. I've seen it loads of times. So that is how I think of people selling fakes when you go abroad on holiday. However, it was very interesting to hear Amelia say that, yeah, you go somewhere like Turkey and there's just a huge store and it's a known thing. It's not something that anybody frowns on. So yeah, things are changing, aren't they? So we're going to talk about the reasons why somebody may want to buy a fake bag. Well, there's the obvious reason, isn't there? The reason number one is the cost. Let's talk about Chanel. The classic flap in Chanel, we're talking maybe the medium size or the jumbo size, are over £9,000 to buy new in the store. £9,000. So the market shows, doesn't it, that not everybody are going to be able to afford that. And not only can you maybe afford it or not afford it, but there's a lot of people out there would never spend that on a handbag, regardless of whether they could afford it or not. It's just a crazy amount of money. And you can get one for a fraction, maybe for £100. Or even the really, 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 really good replicas, the really, really, really good fakes, maybe a few £100, or even a couple of £1,000 for a very, very, very good fake. I don't know where you get these things from. However, it is a fraction of the price for what to the outside world looks like the exact same thing. So yeah, the obvious reason why people want a fake is the cost. So if cost is a big element to this, why would somebody choose a fake versus going and buying a beautifully made leather bag for a couple of £100? In, there are so many brands out there who produce absolutely beautifully made leather bags. They just don't have the brand name. So what makes it the difference between being able to afford this or willing to spend this versus willing to spend this? If you are willing to spend £300 on a fake bag because it's a pretty good fake, why would you not spend that £300 from, I don't know, go to Longchamp or Coach or somewhere, actually just a leather goods specialist that has no brand name whatsoever, but it's a beautifully made bag? Why wouldn't you do that? Well, it's to do with status, isn't it? For those people who they want to be seen with that bag, having that status when they're carrying that bag, so that other people perceive that I don't know, there's something special or something. So to me, it has to be there has to be a factor in it of, oh, I want the status too, because otherwise you would just go and buy something non-branded, just as beautiful quality, but not fake. For some people, particularly on the good fakes, they believe they are getting the exact same quality or near enough the same quality without the price tag. So they still want the thing, but they don't want to pay for it. So that is the reasoning behind why they are willing to do that. They don't want a non-branded one. They just want the thing, but they are not willing to spend that amount of money. And how would anybody even know it's fake? This is my first ever Louis Vuitton bag. This is the monogram backpack. And this is 20 odd years old. So the monogram is probably, I think Amelia said this in her video, the monogram is probably the most copied, the most faked material that you see out there. They now do fakes for everything, every style, whatever else. However, in Louis Vuitton, for example, the styles have changed so much and they have so many different styles out there that some have discontinued, some were out 20 years ago and are still going, some are not. So you cannot always be 100% sure unless you are so knowledgeable about the brand. I feel like I'm quite knowledgeable about Louis Vuitton only because I love it and I research quite a lot. I know it's very boring and nerdy, but I enjoy it. And yeah, I wouldn't know every style and every single thing that's happened in Louis Vuitton. So if I saw somebody with a bag that had a certain style to it and I didn't recognise that style, I wouldn't necessarily think that's fake. I would just think maybe that's an old style that's discontinued that I just haven't come across, because there are so many. So some of the fakes are an exact replica of the actual Louis Vuitton bag, and they will do everything exactly the same as the actual style that you can buy in store right now, for example. And some are just bags that are any old style and they're using this like a fake monogram canvas. Now, when you get hold of them and you feel them and you know what a Louis Vuitton bag looks like, feels like, you've for the bad fakes, they are so obvious, aren't they? People are no longer carrying a bag that looks fake. You wouldn't know. So that enters into the realm of people who really want the actual real thing but don't want to pay for it or can't pay for it. If it was obviously fake and a really bad version of one, a lot of people would not be interested. So I think the fact that they are so good now has opened it up to a lot of those people who really don't, they want to be seen with the thing. So they are pretending that thing is real. They're wanting people to believe that they have bought a real bag, but in essence, they haven't. So, as I say, there are two camps of people in this who, on the one hand, buy a fake and they want everyone to believe it's real and they don't admit that it's a fake. And then there's the other camp that really And not, there's no shame. It is a fake. I am wearing a fake. I don't want anyone to think this is real. I'm telling you it's a fake, and I don't care what you think that it's a fake. And it's a very different mindset, isn't it? And that's what Cassie was talking about, that suddenly now it seems as if it's very, very acceptable. So that leads us on to the discussion of, is it ever okay to buy a fake? Well, you may believe that it is that person's choice, and it's nothing to do with anybody else to judge or to have an opinion on it. And my whole premise of every video that I do, you will see me say, you do you. You decide what you want to do. Don't be swayed by somebody else. Don't do what you think somebody else thinks you should do. Do what you want to do. Make your own decisions, and it's nothing to do with anybody else. And I stand by that against anything at all. Fakes are slightly different for me, because when somebody knowingly buys a fake, they either do not know the background of where those fakes come from. And let's not go into masses of detail here, but we do know that most fakes allegedly come from criminal activity. There is criminal activity behind producing fakes, and there's a lot of evidence to show that. So when people knowingly buy a fake, they either don't know about that and they haven't taken the time to find out about that, or to research any of it, where these bags may come from, or they know about it and they don't care because I think it's nothing to do with them. So because they have nothing to do with it, it's really none of their business. But the fact that they're buying the fake feeds into you're putting your money into that criminal activity and that industry. So for me, it's a very, very difficult, it's a difficult line to cross for me. So I'm not going to judge anybody. If you've bought a fake and you knowingly have bought a fake, and you did it because you just wanted the fake, you just wanted a bit of a bargain or whatever else, then that was your choice at the time. It's not a choice I would have made. The argument that some people cannot afford the real thing and therefore will go for a fake, is that ever okay? Well, again, you do you. It is entirely up to you what you do. For me personally, I've spent a lot of years not being able to afford any of these bags. It's only in the last few years that I have been in a much more fortunate situation in order to afford it. So you might think, oh, it's easy for you to say because you can go out and spend whatever on whatever. And I understand that, but it hasn't always been like that for me. So 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, all those times ago, I have never bought a fake. I have never bought a bag from the guy that walks along the beach in Spain. I've been with my friends who have decided to make that decision. It's not for me to judge. I would never frown on somebody for doing that. I personally haven't. You might call me a snob for that. I've probably been called a snob for that. I don't care. I would rather not have the thing than to buy something that I know isn't real, because for me, part of any of these bags has been a reward for me. It's been a little bit of an incentive to work so hard, so that when I can then afford one, it means so much to me. So I wouldn't buy a fake because I would know it's a fake, if that makes sense. So for me, it would be, I would rather just not have the thing than have something that I know isn't real. And yeah, there were a lot of years where I couldn't save up. It wasn't a matter of, oh, well, I'll save up and I'll get it next year instead of this year. I couldn't afford it. So I would buy, a high street bag, or wouldn't buy one. Um, for me, it was never ever a choice. However, back in the day then, the fakes weren't as they are now. They really weren't. So for me and my friends, it was to buy a fake, you were on holiday and it was the man walking down the beach and you knew they were fake. But now the fakes are so, so, so good. And say the stores where you can just walk in and buy these things. So it is very different now. I understand that. When people are buying fakes, do they realise that it's actually stealing? I know they've paid money to the person who is selling the fake, but the design and the intellectual property, if you like, when you talk about accountancy terms, that doesn't belong to the person that's made that and that's selling that design. Now, you could say there's a real argument here, isn't there, that every design has an element of something from the past, because there's only so many designs of a handbag that you can come out with. It's very, very hard to come up with a completely and utterly never been done before style of bag. However, when it is knowingly copied and sold as if it was, a Louis Vuitton, it's actually got the LV monogram on it. That is a direct, you're stealing that design from the owner of Louis Vuitton. You just are. Now, whether your argument is you don't care because it's a huge corporation, LVMH is pretty much the biggest corporation in the world. It is crazy how huge LVMH is. But does that make it okay to steal the designs that company owns? They own that intellectual property. So is it ever okay to steal that just because it's a big corporation? Do you think it doesn't matter that it is owned by such a huge corporation? You're not going to harm by you doing something. It's not going to harm that big corporation. Now, I know you haven't stolen the design, but the person that has produced the bag that you are buying into that industry has stolen that design. So is it a little bit like somebody stealing from a store and going, oh, it's okay because it'll be covered by insurance, so nobody cares? You're stealing. It's stealing. So yeah, and a lot of people frown on the big corporations because they make so much money. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of tax planning and all the rest of it. However, the huge corporations provide jobs, they pay their taxes, they are contributors to the economy. They just are. They just are. So whether you like it or not, to steal from a corporation, is it ever okay? Is it ever, and is it ever okay to expose somebody who's carrying a fake? Now, we've all seen the fake Birkin Slayer, haven't we, on Instagram? And I don't know anything about it. I don't really follow any of it. I don't really know what's happening, other than I know that account is, in essence, exposing somebody or saying to somebody, where did you get that from? As in asking the question, is it fake or not? Now, I don't know if they, sort of contact that person prior and give them an opportunity to respond before they post something, or is it ever okay to post something even if they have contacted them beforehand and given them an opportunity? Is it ever okay for any of us to judge anybody else? My view is always, it's not for me to judge anything that anybody else does. For me, I can only make my own decisions based on what my values are and how I feel about things. And that is as much as I can do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. If you ask me my opinion on something, you will get it, and it will be honest and direct. But for me personally, you do you. It's not for me to tell you what to do. I can only point out maybe there's another angle to look at things from, and that may change somebody's opinion on whether they think it's acceptable to do certain things. So that's, in essence, as much as I can do. I would never buy a fake. I would rather not have one than enter into it. That's my opinion. So thank you so much for watching. It's been a bit of a strange one, hasn't it? But I thought I'd add my two penneth. Anyway, if you would like to see my video where I discuss the beautiful Birkin and I compare the 25, the 30 and the 35, I'll stick it here. Go watch that one because nobody's watched it. I don't think anybody's seen it. And I actually thought it was a reasonable video, but hey ho, go have a look at that one. And other than that, I'll see you on the next one.